Hello, this is Jacqueline from Jack Knits, where I do instructional videos all about knitting and crocheting. Today's video is how to crochet a basic granny square. Now there are lots of different granny squares you can crochet, but this is the real basic granny square pattern, which I am going to show you how to do. You can do this in one color, multiple colors. It really doesn't make any difference. I'm going to show you how to do one color and two colors and how to start this. So let's begin. We are going to use for my demonstration today a 5mm crochet hook and just some worsted weight yarn. I am using the Big Twist yarn today. We're going to use it in some fun bright colors of yellow and orange today. So let's start our granny circle by first making a little circle for the center. Now you can start crocheting in the round, which is what we're going to be doing for this granny squares, one of two ways. You can either start by making a few chains and then connecting the chains to make a circle to begin putting your first row of stitches in, or you can do the magic ring method. I'm going to show you how to do both. Also in this video, most of the stitches for this, or pretty much all of them, are double crochet stitches. So if you need a refresher on how to do double crochet, I would suggest you watch my video on the double crochet stitch first. That will be a link in the upper right hand corner, also in the description below the video. So refresh yourself on that if you need to. Otherwise, that is the main stitch that we're going to be working on for these granny squares. So let's start by doing the first method, where we're going to just start with a series of chains. To do that, we're going to start with a slip knot. Pull it kind of snug to your needle, but not too tight. And then we're going to do 5 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we're going to connect our chains to the first chain here to create a little circle. So we're just going to insert our hook into that very first chain we did, grab that yarn, pull it through that hole and also through the loop on your needle, and now we've created a little tiny circle, and that is how we're going to begin our granny square. We're going to start by putting our stitches right in the hole, right where you see my finger popping through. We will start with 3 chains and then start to crochet right in the center of that circle with a double crochet. Okay, so that is how you would begin if you were doing some chains, and then we would continue going, and you can review what we're doing next after the magic ring. But I want to also show you the magic ring method. Just the start of it is different, but how you proceed from then going forward with each round is going to be the same. So let me show you the magic ring method so you can kind of get a feel for both methods, and you can choose which one you like better. For the magic ring, you're going to take your yarn, kind of wrap it around your fingers, and then on top just give it a cross over here. Then take your hook and go underneath that first strand and grab the yarn on that second strand, kind of loop it around. You can release your fingers and now do with the working yarn, not the tail, but the working yarn, just a little chain, one chain, and that kind of secures it in place. So now it kind of looks like a little pretzel. You can pull on the tail to make that circle a little smaller if you like, so you're not working with such a big circle. But now that is a circle in which we're going to do our first series of stitches. Okay, so that's the magic ring. We're just going to continue with this to do our granny squares, but again, you can use either method. Okay, so to begin with our granny square, if you notice when you look at these, everything is comprised of a series of clusters, and these clusters are made up of 3 double crochets. So that's what each of these little blops are, is 3 double crochets in a row. So we're going to continue to make these little double crochet clusters all the way around. So to begin with, we're going to make our first double crochet clusters, and we're going to start by making 3 chains. 1, 2, and 3. Now that 3 chain is going to count as 1 double crochet. So now to make 3 double crochet cluster stitch, I only need to do 2 more double crochets for this very first cluster. So let's do 2 more double crochets. Wrap your yarn around, and we're going to insert our hook right in the middle of that big magic ring circle we just created. A double crochet stitch. Now we'll do 1 more right in that same circle. Okay, so we're putting all our stitches in that same circle for this first round. So now I've got my first little series of double crochet cluster. 1, which was the 3 chains, and then 2 double crochets. Now I need to make my very first corner, and all of our corners in our granny squares, right here and here, you can see the corner is actually going to be 3 chains. They're kind of buried underneath the next row, but that's what our corners are going to consist of, is 3 chains. So let's make our first corner by chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. That's our corner. Now we're going to do our next side of our square. We're making a little tiny square to begin with. Our next side is going to be another DC double crochet cluster by making 3 double crochets in the same hole again. So let's do 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, whenever you want to pull your magic ring circle a little smaller, just tug on that tail a little bit. All right, so we made our first corner. You can kind of see the start of our corner and another side of our little square we're going to make. Now we're going to make a second corner by chaining 3 again. 1, 2, 3. And let's make our next side by doing another double crochet cluster of 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now we're going to make another corner with 3 more chains. 1, 2, 3. And make another DC cluster for our 4th side. 3 double crochets. We're still going in that same hole every single time for this first round. Okay, so now let's pull this a little snugger. And let's make our final corner, our last 3 chain for our last corner. And now we just need to connect that corner with the side, kind of finish that up, and we're going to do that by doing just a slip stitch in the top of the chain that we started with. So here's 1 chain, 2 chains, and this is our 3rd chain right here. So we're just going to slip our hook right in that chain, bring it through, and bring it through the loop on your hook. That is going to finish that up. Let's pull this tail of our magic ring nice and tight so it closes up that circle. And now you can see that we have started with our first round and we've made a little tiny square. Okay, so at this point you can decide whether or not you want to change color to another color for this next round or continue with the same color. Let's continue with the same color for now, and then the next round I will show you how to change the color. So let's do the next round. We're going to start this round by doing our first corner right in the corner that is closest to our hook right here. To start the next round, we're going to start with 3 chains again, just like we started the first one. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to do 2 more double crochets to finish that first DC cluster, but we're going to do it in this hole right here, and it feels like you're going backwards. You feel like you should go to this corner perhaps in your head, but trust me, you want to go in this kind of backwards hole behind you a little bit here to create our very first double crochet cluster. So let's do 2 more. That chain is counting as 1 double crochet, so we're going to do 2 more to make 3. And now we've made 1 double crochet cluster in that corner. Now that's actually going to be the second half of our corner. We're going to finish with the first half when we come all the way around, and then we were going to do 3 more double crochets and 3 chains to finish that first corner. But first we're going to go around our square and end up over there again. Okay, so now we need to go into this next corner and do 3 double crochets, a cluster, do 3 chains, that's going to be our corner, and then another 3 double crochets. That is going to be our corner routine from now on. To get from space to space, so from here to our next space, we're always going to do a 1 chain stitch. That's kind of our traveling stitch before we move to our next section. So let's do a chain there like I just did. Now let's go to this corner and let's do that series of 3, 3, and 3. 3 double crochets, 3 chains, 3 double crochets. So let's start with 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Now we'll do 3 chains. That's going to be our corner. And let's do 3 more double crochets, and that's going to be kind of the represent the entire corner from now on. Is always going to be 3 double crochets, 3 chains, and then 3 more double crochets in each corner from now on. Okay, so you can kind of see how it made a nice little corner there, and we can move on to make our next corner. But before we can do that, before we do the next corner, we're going to travel there by doing 1 chain. Now let's do our next corner. 3, 3, 3. 3 double crochets. Three chains. And 3 more double crochets. All right, our square is getting bigger. All right, let's travel to this next corner by doing 1 chain. Now let's do that series of stitches in this next corner. So 3 double crochets. That was 3. Now we'll do 3 chains for our corner. 1, 2, 3. And 3 more double crochets to wrap up that corner. Okay, now we just need to finish up this last corner. Remember when we started this round, we just did 1 series of 3 double crochets. So now we need to do that that first half of that corner and the 3 chains to complete that last corner. But again, let's first travel to that space by doing our chain, 1 chain. Now let's do 3 more double crochets in that very first corner we worked on. All right, then the last little step for this round is just to complete that corner with 3 more chains. 1, 2, and 3. And then we just need to connect it to this side to kind of end this round. So to do that, we're just going to do a little slip stitch in the very top chain of that first chain 3 that we did. Remember, we started that cluster with 3 chains. So let's count 1, 2, and 3. 3 chains there. We're going to insert our hook in there and just do a little slip stitch, and we're just connecting that to make finished up our round. Look, our magic ring got a little loose again, so we're going to pull that tight. At the end, if that continues to get loose, just weave that tail in nice and secure in there, and that will prevent that from, keep getting loose on you. Okay, now let's change color at this point. We've done 2 complete rounds. Now let's say you want to change to another color. So I'll show you how to do that. Let's get another color ready. We're going to do this really bright orange for our next row. So just kind of pull your last stitch out there and you can cut off a little bit of a tail. Pull your stitch all the way through. And now we're just going to kind of position this tail so when we do our next round, we can nicely tuck it under the stitches of our next round, and then you won't have so much to weave in at the end, okay? So let's thread this tail onto a darning needle. And we're just going to kind of finish up this little tail by tucking it under some stitches here. We're going to tuck it under the two legs of this next stitch here. And then I'm just going to kind of weave in my tail kind of through this chain 3 corner, so my tail ends up on this side. And I'll show you why you want to do that in just a minute here. Oops, kind of tucked it under that. I didn't want to do that. Okay, I'm going to go back over here. I'm just kind of tucking it under these chain 3s, my last chain. Just kind of weaving it in and out of those chains. So now my tail is over here. And the reason I want my tail here is because when I come back and crochet around this next row, I want to be able to tuck this tail nicely under this corner. So by putting it on this side, that allows me to do that a little bit more easily. Okay, so now we're going to start our next row with our next color. We're actually going to start our next color not in this whole corner that we just completed, but on the one to the right. And the reason for that is then we don't have two tails ending up in the same corner with a lot of tails to kind of weave in under one corner. So we're going to start our next color in the corner to the right. So let's grab our orange yarn and our hook. Give yourself a little bit of a tail, and we're going to insert our hook right in that big corner there to the right. Grab our yarn, bring it through, and then just take the working yarn, not the tail, but the working yarn, and just do another chain. And that's going to kind of just secure it into place, okay? So you can kind of pull on this tail. We're also going to be kind of weaving that tail or holding that tail underneath our next couple stitches to kind of secure that in place. Okay, so now with our new color, we're going to start our first corner, and we're going to start that by doing 3 chain stitches again. 1, 2, 3. That counts as our first double crochet of this very first cluster. We'll do 2 more double crochets again in this corner right here. We're not jumping to the next space yet. We're staying right in this corner. So let's do 2 more double crochets, and you can see that I'm holding my tail underneath this corner so I can catch it when I'm doing those couple double crochets. That will help a little bit in the weaving in of the ends. All right, so that's the second half of my corner. Now we need to travel around to with this next round. But you notice here I've got now an extra space on the side of my circle. We've kind of making this square bigger and bigger and bigger. And so now on this side, we also need to do a series of double crochet cluster in here, 1 cluster. So again, to travel from space to space, I'm going to do 1 chain. And now let's do 3 double crochets in this space right here. 1, 2, and 3. So that's our side. Now we're going to travel to this corner by chaining 1. And here's the corner that has our tail from the previous color. So I'm going to want to make sure I kind of tuck it underneath that corner so I can catch it when I'm doing my next stitches. See how I have it sitting under there? I'm going to wrap it around, make sure I'm catching that tail in my next stitches, catching it as I go around. Let's do 3 double crochets here. Our 3 stitch corner, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3 chain stitches, and 3 double crochets. Remember, that's our corner every single time. 3 double crochets, 3 chains, 3 double crochets. All right, let's do another chain to travel to our next space right here, and we'll do 3 in that space. Let's travel to this corner with 1 chain, and we'll do our next corner series, which is 3, 3, 3. 3 double crochets, 3 chains, and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3 chains, 3 double crochets. All right, let's travel to this next space, 1 chain, now 3 double crochets in that space. Travel to the corner, 1 chain, and now our corner series. One chain to travel to the next space, and we'll do 3 double crochets here. Let's travel to the corner, the last corner here, and we're going to finish up that corner by doing the 3 double crochets. And that final corner of the 3 chains. And we'll connect them with the top of the chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. And connect them. Okay, so now we've got our 3rd row complete. At this point, again, decide whether or not you want to change color or continue with the same color. I'll just continue with the same color to do our final row, our final round. Now you can obviously make these granny squares as big as you want. This one I made it a little bit bigger, this one a little bit smaller, so there's lots of, I mean, just keep going, right? So let's start our next round. We're not changing colors, so I'm just going to do 3 more chains to start our round. And let's make our first 2 double crochets in this very first corner we're working with. Okay, so now I'm going to continue around this round another time, and this time I've got now 2 spaces on each side that we need to do a DC cluster in. I'll do 3 double crochets in here, do a chain 1 to travel to the next space, 3 chain 1. We'll do our corner series 3 3 3, continue that all the way around till we're going to finish up with this last corner. So let me work ahead. I will do that. I'll meet you at the end, and we'll wrap it up by weaving in any ends that we need to. All right, I'm finishing up my last corner of this last round. So I'm going to do my last 3 double crochets in this last corner. And then my 3 chains to finish that corner. And let's connect them again in that top of that first chain. All right, so that completes my granny square. If you choose to only do 1, 2, 3, 4 rows like this, but you can make them bigger. I did 5 rows on here, 6 rounds on here. So as you just keep that same pattern going and going until you are satisfied with the size of your granny square. So let's finish this up, just show you a couple little tips on weaving in these ends. With this last stitch here, again, we're going to pull that stitch out, cut a tail here, pull the rest of the way, and let's just finish off this stitch in a nice neat way so it looks kind of like the last stitch of your round here. So let's thread it on the darning needle. So we're going to take our darning needle and go in through this very first full V stitch you see, not in this the stitch that you did the last slip stitch in, but this first V. Insert your needle through both of those legs, pull it through, pull it tight. What we're doing now is kind of mimicking these stitches on the top here. Now we're going to go into our last stitch that we did over here and go into that front loop from the back to the front. Pull it tight, and now you've kind of mimicked what the stitch looks like on the outside. Okay, so now all that's left is to kind of turn it over, and you can go under this first or this last cluster stitch. Just weave in a couple times under some of those stitches to hide your tail, and you can snip that off. So let's look at our other tails here. This one was kind of nicely tucked under all of these, but if you are concerned about it coming loose, there's no harm in doing a little bit more weaving in. You can snip it off right now, but I kind of like to do it a little extra secure by just taking that tail, skipping this first stitch here and going backwards through that through those stitches to kind of do a little extra secure on that weaving in. This one as well. I'm just going to go in. I don't want to go under here because that's the different color, but I'm just going to go into this cluster here and weave in a couple stitches in this first DC cluster, just a couple of them, just to kind of secure that end a little bit more as well. And then on this one that's from our magic ring, after you give it a nice tug to close it up securely, let's make sure that that doesn't come loose and open up that gap. So it's going through this set of stitches this way. So I'm going to kind of go reverse by going over that last stitch and then just kind of going backwards under that first set of stitches just for a little bit. And that's going to secure that magic ring hole so it won't open up a little bit. There, and all that's left to do is just to snip those tails right nice and close to your project. And there we have our finished basic granny square. So these can be used for many, many, many projects. If you search online for granny squares projects, you'll probably be a little overwhelmed. It can make bags, sweaters, vests, all sort of things, baby blankets. I mean, the world is open, wide open for all the different projects you can do with granny squares. So start with this basic granny square, then you can move up to doing really other beautiful, pretty designs with this basic concept of going round and around to make a square. I hope you give this a try. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I produce videos all about knitting and crocheting. I hope you join me on your journey. Thanks for watching, everybody. Happy crocheting.